I still remember the hum of the air conditioner that day, too loud for such a quiet shop. It was one of those late afternoons where sunlight slips through the blinds in crooked lines, cutting the dust into little golden pieces. I was behind the counter, trying to fix a cracked phone screen, when she walked in. She didn't belong there. That much I could tell before she even said a word. Not because she was dressed fancy or anything, but because she moved like someone who didn't rush for anyone. Calm. Certain. The kind of person who makes time slow down without asking. Her voice was low, steady. Do you fix old watches too? I looked up, and that's when it happened. Not the smile, not yet. Just her eyes. Sharp, dark, curious. The kind that seemed to measure you quietly before you even open your mouth. Depends on how old, I said, trying not to sound like I was suddenly 13 again. She took off her watch, an old silver thing with a cracked face, and placed it gently on the counter. Her hands were steady but carried that faint tremor of someone who's lived a lot of days that didn't go the way they planned. It was my father's, she added. Something about the way she said it, soft, almost apologetic, made me want to fix it perfectly, even if it took all night. I started checking the mechanism, pretending to focus, but I could feel her eyes on me. Not in a flirtatious way, more like curiosity mixed with a quiet challenge. I'd seen that look before from customers, but never like this. You're good at this, she said after a moment. I try. Trying usually means you care. She smiled then, small, polite, barely there. But it landed like a spark in a dry room. For a second, neither of us spoke. The hum of the AC filled the space again, the kind of silence that doesn't ask to be broken. She glanced around the shop, at the old shelves, the loose wires, the half-repaired radios. Do you ever fix things for yourself? She asked. I looked up, not sure if it was a joke. Not really, I said after a pause. She nodded like she understood more than I meant to say. Then she checked her phone, her expression tightening, just a flicker of something personal, and tucked it away again. When I told her the repair would take a few days, she hesitated at the door. All right, she said finally. I'll come back for it. And she did something I didn't expect. She smiled again. Not the polite kind this time. The real one. It wasn't perfect. One corner of her mouth lifted higher than the other, like it had forgotten how to be even. But there was warmth in it, the kind that stays with you long after the moment passes. After she left, I realized I'd been standing in the same spot for almost a minute, staring at the empty doorway. I picked up the watch and turned it over in my hand. There was an engraving on the back, worn down but still legible. To M. Keep time for yourself. I didn't know why that line got under my skin, but it did. Maybe because it felt like something she hadn't done in a long time. Or maybe because I already wanted to know what kind of woman forgets to keep time for herself. That night, I found myself checking the clock more than usual, waiting, though I wasn't sure for what. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw that uneven smile again. And I couldn't tell if it was hers, or the start of something I wasn't ready for. She came back 3 days later, earlier than I expected. The shop was half-lit, the kind of lazy morning light that makes everything look softer, slower. I was sweeping sawdust off the counter when the bell above the door rang. I didn't have to look up to know it was her. Some people have a presence that arrives before they speak, like a scent or a change in air pressure. Is it ready? She asked, setting her bag down. I wiped my hands on a rag, nodding. Almost. The spring was worn out. I had to find a replacement that would fit. She exhaled through her nose. Not quite relief, not quite impatience. You're thorough. I try, I said again, and instantly regretted repeating the same line. This time she smiled faintly, as if she remembered it too. While I adjusted the small screws under the magnifier, I could sense her standing just behind the counter, close enough that I could smell her perfume. Not strong, just the faintest trace of citrus and something floral that lingered after she moved. You don't talk much, she said after a while. I glanced up, caught her looking at me, then back at the half-repaired watch. Neither do you, I said. That made her laugh, quietly, but it broke something in the air. Her laugh wasn't light. It had texture, a kind of weary music that came from someone who hadn't laughed in a while. I suppose that's true, she murmured. There was a pause after that. The kind that feels heavy, not uncomfortable, just aware. I kept my head down, pretending to tighten a screw that was already snug. But I could see her reflection in the glass case. The way she rubbed her wrist absent-mindedly where the watch used to sit. How her shoulders slumped slightly, like she was carrying something invisible but heavy. You okay? I asked before I could stop myself. Her eyes lifted, caught mine in the reflection. I'm fine, she said too quickly. Then softer. Just tired. Something about the way she said tired, like it meant more than sleep, made me want to ask what kind of life left her that way. Instead, I nodded. Long week. She smiled without looking at me. Long life. That silence again. Except this one was different, gentler, maybe. The hum of the shop felt slower, the light warmer. I didn't know what to say, so I did what I do best, fix things. When I handed the watch back, she turned it over, running her thumb along the engraving on the back. It's beautiful, she said. Then, quieter, you even cleaned the glass. I wanted it to look new again. She looked up at me then, really looked. Some things aren't meant to look new, she said softly. I didn't answer. Her eyes flicked down, and for a moment, I thought she might say something else. But instead, she fastened the watch around her wrist, her fingers trembling just slightly. She thanked me, reached for her bag, then stopped halfway. Do you ever close early? The question hung there, half a challenge, half a test. Sometimes, I said. She nodded once, not committing to anything. But there was a small flicker behind her eyes, something that wasn't there the first time we met. As she left, her reflection flashed in the glass door, sunlight catching the silver watch, her fingers brushing it once before she disappeared outside. I stood there again, same as before, pretending to busy myself with nothing. But my chest felt heavier now, not because she was gone, but because I knew she'd come back. And when she did, I wasn't sure which one of us would break first. It was raining that night, the kind of slow, patient rain that soaks through your sleeves before you realize it started. I was locking up the shop when I saw her outside, standing under the awning with her coat pulled tight. You're still here, she said. Her voice carried just enough surprise to make me wonder if she'd been waiting. Storm came faster than they said. I replied, forcing a small laugh. You'll get drenched walking home. She looked out at the street, at the glistening road and the cars smearing light through puddles. I didn't bring an umbrella. Stay a bit, I said before I could think. I've got coffee. Her hesitation lasted long enough for me to regret it, and then she nodded. Just until it slows down. Inside, the shop felt smaller with her in it. I poured coffee into 2 mismatched mugs and cleared a space on the counter. The rain outside filled the silence. She leaned on the counter, watching the steam rise. You work too late, she said. You say that like you don't. Her smile flickered, faint and tired. Touché. We stood like that for a while, saying little, until she noticed the half-repaired radio beside her. You fix everything here? Try to. She tilted her head. That word again. I smiled caught. Yeah, well, it's a habit. Her hand brushed the edge of the counter as she shifted, just close enough that our fingers might have touched if either of us moved a little more. But neither of us did. Must be nice, she said quietly, having something that can be fixed. The words lingered. Her tone wasn't self-pitying, just honest. I wanted to ask what she meant, but she was already tracing the rim of her mug, eyes lowered. You ever miss someone who's still around? She asked suddenly. That one hit deeper than it should have. Yeah, I said. I think so. Then you understand. Her phone buzzed on the counter, lighting up with a name she didn't want to see. I could tell by the way she looked at it. Jaw tight, breath held. She silenced it without answering. Everything okay? I asked. She nodded. Too fast. Old habit, she said, forcing a laugh that didn't reach her eyes. The sound of rain grew louder, as if the sky was trying to cover for us. I found myself watching the way her hair stuck slightly to her neck, the soft tremor in her fingers when she reached for her coat. Every movement felt like a decision she hadn't made yet. You should probably go before it gets worse, I said, the words catching somewhere between concern and self-preservation. She didn't move. Her eyes lifted to mine, searching, weighing something invisible. Then she whispered, You always say the right thing. I don't think I do. We stood there, suspended, not close enough to call it anything, not far enough to pretend it was nothing. The storm flashed white outside the window. For a second, her face was lit up, vulnerable, unguarded, almost young. Then she stepped back, smoothing her coat like she needed to remind herself of something. Thank you, she said, barely above a whisper. For what? For not asking. And before I could say anything, she was gone. The doorbell chiming softly behind her, rain swallowing the sound of her footsteps. I watched until she disappeared into the blur of lights and water, her silver watch catching one last glint from the street lamp. I could have run after her. I didn't. But my hand stayed on the door long after she was gone, fingers curled around the handle, like if I let go, the whole thing might stop existing. She came back the next week, not for a repair this time. She said she was just passing by, but she didn't have the kind of face that lied well. It was late again. The light in the shop was dim, yellowing at the edges. The radio hummed quietly in the background, some old song with too much space between the notes. She leaned against the doorframe, wet from the drizzle outside. "You still don't close early, huh?" I set down the screwdriver I wasn't really using. "Depends who's asking." That got a small, tired laugh out of her, the kind that doesn't lift, just folds inward. She looked around the room like she was trying to remember why she came in at all. "Do you ever get tired of being here?" she asked. "Sometimes," I said. "But when it's quiet, I can think." She nodded slowly. "And thinking helps." "Not really." That silence again, familiar now, but heavier somehow. I could feel it pressing in, asking for something neither of us wanted to give. She walked closer, the sound of her heels soft against the worn floor. Her fingers grazed a line of old watches I'd finished earlier that day. "All these little machines," she said, "ticking along, pretending they're not running out of time." Her voice broke a little on time. She caught it, covered it with a breath, but I'd already heard it. I stepped forward before I could stop myself. "You okay?" She shook her head, not to say no, but to avoid answering. Her hand trembled as she picked up one of the watches. "Do you ever feel like you're just standing still while everyone else moves?" I opened my mouth, closed it again. "Yeah," I said finally. "More than I'd like." She set the watch down gently, like it might shatter from the weight of her thoughts. "This isn't normal," she whispered. "What isn't?" "You and me. These visits. The way you look at me like you're trying to figure out something I can't say." I didn't move. I didn't breathe. "I don't mean to," I said quietly. "I know," she replied, meeting my eyes for the first time. "That's what makes it worse." The clock on the wall ticked once, loud in the stillness. I wanted to say something, anything, to make it lighter. But there was nothing light about this. "You could stop coming," I said. My voice came out rougher than I meant. She gave a small, sad smile. "You think I haven't tried?" Her fingers brushed the counter, hesitant. For a second, I thought she might reach for me, but she didn't. Instead, she pulled her hand back, folding her arms like she was cold. "I don't even know what this is," she said softly. "I just know I keep showing up." Her eyes glistened, not quite tears, just that shimmer right before. "And you keep being here." Neither of us spoke after that. The space between us felt alive, pulsing with everything unsaid. Finally, she took a step back, almost whispering, "You make it too easy to forget how lonely I am." And then she left. No goodbye this time, just the echo of that line hanging in the air, heavier than anything she could have touched. It had been nearly 2 weeks since I'd seen her. Long enough for the air in the shop to settle back into its usual rhythm, or at least pretend to. Then, one evening, just before closing, the bell over the door rang. She didn't say hello, just walked in quietly, holding something small in her hand, a folded piece of paper, worn at the edges. "I wasn't sure if I should come," she said. Her voice was hoarse, like she hadn't used it much lately. "You always say that," I said gently. "And yet, here you are." That almost got a smile. Almost. She placed the folded note on the counter between us. "I found this in an old drawer this morning. I thought I'd thrown it out years ago. I didn't reach for it. I just waited. It's from my husband," she said finally. "He wrote it before he left. Or maybe before he decided to leave. Hard to tell." The word husband shouldn't have hit as hard as it did, but it did. "I didn't know," I said. "I never said," she replied simply. The rain started outside again, steady, familiar. She unfolded the note, smoothing it against the counter. Her fingers trembled just enough that I wanted to reach out, but didn't. "It says," she began, voice breaking, "you don't let anyone close, even when you want to." She looked up at me. He wasn't wrong. There was no bitterness in her tone, just exhaustion, the kind that comes from remembering too much. "I thought I got better at it," she said. "But then you showed up, and I realized I just got quieter. I didn't know what to say. Every word I thought of sounded too small." "You remind me of him," she said after a moment. "Not in the way you look, in the way you listen." I swallowed. Was that a good thing? She thought about it. It was once. The silence that followed felt like standing on thin ice. One step, and everything would break. I finally looked down at the note. Her handwriting was there, faintly visible on the back, a reply she'd never sent. I tried. Why show me this? I asked quietly. Because I didn't want it to mean nothing anymore, she said. And because I can't tell if I'm drawn to you, or just to the part of myself I used to be when someone still looked at me like that. Her honesty hit harder than any confession could have. The light flickered once, briefly, as thunder rolled in the distance. She folded the note again, slipping it into my hand before I could stop her. Keep it, she whispered. Maybe you'll understand it better than I did. I wanted to ask what she meant, if this was goodbye, or something else entirely. But she was already turning toward the door. At the threshold, she paused, rainlight shimmering off her hair. You fixed his watch, she said. Maybe that's enough. Then she left, no sound but the rain and the ticking of every clock in the shop, all perfectly in sync, except for one that had stopped somewhere in the middle of her sentence. And I didn't have the heart to start it again. 3 days passed before she came back. 3 long, uneven days where every sound in the shop felt too sharp, too aware of her absence. It was late again. It always was with her, when the door creaked open. No umbrella this time, no hesitation. Just her, standing there like she'd been walking for hours and finally ran out of places to go. I didn't think you'd still be here, she said quietly. I don't go anywhere, I replied. Someone has to keep time running. That made her exhale, not a laugh, just air that had been held too long. She looked around the shop, eyes landing on the counter where she'd left the note. It was still there, folded neatly, untouched. You read it? I did. And I don't think it was really about him. She blinked. No, I think it was about you. Her gaze lingered on mine then, steady but soft, the kind of look that doesn't ask for permission, just stays. You always see more than you should, she whispered. Maybe, I said. Or maybe you finally let someone look. That silence again. But this time it didn't hurt. It just was. She stepped closer, not dramatically, just enough that I could smell the rain in her hair. The distance between us felt smaller than it had ever been. Or maybe we'd just stopped pretending it was still there. I don't know what to do with this, she said. Then don't, I replied. You don't have to name it. Her shoulders loosened, almost in relief. You make it sound easy. It's not, I said. But maybe it doesn't have to be hard, either. She let out a breath that trembled on its way out, then reached for the nearest stool and sat down, tired, unguarded. I turned off the radio, leaving only the hum of the fluorescent light above us. We stayed that way for a while, 2 people who had spent too long circling something unnamed. Finally, she spoke. I keep trying to be someone I used to be. Someone who didn't need this. Maybe you were never supposed to stop needing, I said. That made her look up again. Her eyes glistened. Not tears, not quite. Just the sheen of someone letting go of something old. She reached across the counter then, fingers brushing mine. It wasn't deliberate, more like a surrender. Her hand was cold, rain-soaked, and small against mine. But it stayed there. No words, no movement, just warmth spreading through that single point of contact. For the first time, there was no pretense, no distance. Just quiet understanding, the kind that says we don't know what this is, but it's real. After a long moment, she said softly, You shouldn't wait for me. I nodded. I'm not. I'm just here. Her fingers tightened slightly, just once. Then she pulled her hand back, slow and deliberate, like she was teaching herself to leave without disappearing. When she stood to go, she looked at me one last time, not like a goodbye, but like a truth finally spoken. And for the first time since I met her, she smiled, that uneven smile that started it all. No promises, no explanations, just that. And somehow that was enough. It's been 6 months since I last saw her. Sometimes I catch myself glancing at the door when the bell rings, expecting that familiar half-smile, that hesitant pause, but it's always someone else. People come and go. Watches break, screens crack, life keeps moving. Still, every now and then, I find her handwriting on that folded note she left behind, the one I never gave back. It's creased now, the ink smudged from the times I've unfolded it just to feel the weight of it again. I don't read the words anymore. I just remember the way she said them, slow, careful, like she was walking barefoot across something fragile. I think about her differently now, not as a ghost or a what-if, but as a moment that changed its shape instead of ending. When she first walked into my shop, I thought she was someone passing through my life. I didn't realize she'd be the mirror that showed me the kind of silence I carried. She taught me that loneliness isn't always loud. Sometimes it sits quietly beside you, wearing perfume and a tired smile. And me? I stopped trying to fix everything that came across my counter. Some things, I've learned, don't need fixing. They just need to be seen. The watch she left behind. Yes, she did leave it. Still ticks faintly in the drawer next to the register. I never wound it again after she left. I couldn't. There's something sacred about letting time rest when it's finally told its story. I think about her words sometimes. You make it too easy to forget how lonely I am. Back then, it sounded like a confession. Now it sounds like something else, a thank you. Maybe that's what love really is. Not the forever kind we're promised in movies, but the quiet understanding that for a moment, you helped someone carry what was too heavy for them alone. She once asked me if thinking helped. I told her no. But now I think it does, when it's about the right things. About kindness. About timing. About the way two people can find each other at the wrong point in their lives, and somehow still make it mean something. I don't know where she is now. I don't need to. Some people stay with you, even when they're gone. Maybe that's what it means when they say a smile can change your world. Not because it fixes anything, but because it reminds you that connection, however brief, is still possible. If she ever walks through that door again, I'll probably smile first this time. Not because I'm waiting, but because I finally understand why I couldn't forget. And maybe that's all the closure anyone ever really gets.